Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kami, and I'm a completionist who reviews every game after 100% trophy completion. After playing Jak and Daxter The Precursor Legacy, I had this itch to continue the series. Motivated to complete the trilogy, I delved into Jak 2, one of the most divisive sequels I have ever played. If you're looking for a reason to revisit this PlayStation 2 classic, or reasons to play it for the first time, allow me to delve into what this game has to offer.
Okay, I swear, that's the last time I ever touch any stupid precursor crap!
There he is. Move in. Step away.
Jak 1 was a fun platformer which had the player collect precursor eggs and power cells in linear zones. Jak 2 did away with that, and gives us an open city to explore. Whilst the engine was reused, the gameplay feels like a big expansion befitting a sequel. The platforming is less emphasized, shifting the focus to a more action-oriented game. The platforming sections are still there, but the level design is far more open, addressing criticisms I had with the game's camera in the first game. That was a great improvement on its own. Jak now has access to 4 guns to deal with tougher enemies to clear out zones. Since the combat is so emphasized, how does it feel? Honestly, really fun. The guns are all varied. Jak has a shotgun with a wide spread, a semi-automatic long-range rifle, an automatic rifle, and a heavy plasma gun. The flow of enemies and difficulty encourages the player to experiment with the combat. Not only that, but melee attacks can be used to combo into firearm attacks. This allows for slick follow-ups and cool destructive damage. Naughty Dog designed Jak to automatically lock onto enemies, which works about 75% of the time. When it works, it's great, but at times I wish I could manually aim or just use a lock-on. I don't feel that a manual lock-on would ruin the difficulty, but you're welcome to disagree. I just think because guns were so emphasized, their usability can feel limited when I'm stuck aiming with the movement stick. As well as guns, Jak 2 introduced Dark Jak. This temporary power-up gives the player a major upper hand to use destructive melee attacks. The game's second collectible, Metalhead Eggs, can then be used to upgrade Dark Jak, rewarding the player for their efforts. I love this, as it made encounters feel way more balanced, having such a strong ability. I didn't rely on it, opting for firearms instead. Having that ability definitely felt valuable when completing tougher sections. Jak 2 is designed with a mission structure. Zones have a dedicated task with collectibles sprinkled throughout. The dedicated zones are a great example of a smart design. Sometimes returning to an area can feel lazy, but not in Jak 2. You can visit an area up to 3 times with a new section to explore. This makes exploration feel quite fun after seeing the area open up later in the game. Because the areas are designed beforehand, revisiting the area gives this idea that the developers put tons of thought into it. I really liked this idea since it related to the story's concepts, which I won't spoil. The game splits missions between dedicated zones and Haven City. Haven City feels pretty lively for a PlayStation 2 game. Whilst the game runs at 60 frames per second, I did feel there were some frame drops because of the density of the action. This is not a criticism, because it happened seldomly, and it's very understandable when there's so many objects on the screen at once. If you're familiar with the first game's Zuma bike, this has returned, except it's applied to any vehicle. Honestly, I did not enjoy the vehicles at all. I do like the elevation mechanic offered, however, it's just not a fun experience to drive. The vehicles are too floaty for my liking. The brakes are instantaneous, which meant I couldn't drift. Relying on the skill of deceleration made it frustrating because of the small space of Haven City's pathways. It's very easy to crash into walls or other vehicles. I mention this because a lot of open-world missions utilize the vehicles. Often missions have timers or require the player to survive without health packs. This experience was highly frustrating and challenging. Balancing a time limit and the pressure of enemies ganging up on the player and dealing with frequent vehicle degradation is a frustrating experience. I can understand why checkpoints don't work in these missions, but having to completely restart because of no health pickups and frustrating traversal is not fun for me at all. The game tests the player a lot, which is fine for me, but I certainly had moments I wanted to stop playing due to frustrations. Thankfully, the levels are designed to be reasonably completed in 5 to 10 minutes, and restarting is almost instantaneous. This meant I didn't waste time getting back into action. However, it didn't alleviate the loss of progress I felt occasionally. One of my biggest issues with the gameplay is the inability to track collectibles. The first game allowed the player to track collectibles per each zone whenever the player paused. This game, good luck to you. Go to IGN and track them manually. There's 286 precursor eggs, so this isn't fun to track at all. This is why I see Jak 2 as divisive. There's so many ideas that expand upon the original. The mechanics are fun, and it's exhilarating at times, dealing with high-intensity moments that challenge the player to win. Unfortunately, there are definitely moments that feel BS. The enemies can attack before Jak reloads, which means it's easy to get caught out. Checkpoints barely exist compared to the first game. The vehicles feel like they have the durability of a wet tissue, and the levels rarely have health packs, so it's an instant restart after failure. Mistakes feel greatly punished, and for some people, I can understand why they could feel deterred from playing this game. That being said, I had fun overcoming the challenge of Jak 2. It reminded me of games such as Ninja Gaiden, Dark Souls, and Castlevania. The philosophy of death being a stepping stone to overcome, to push the player to rise to the challenge, is something that hooks me right in. The story of Jak 2 is truthfully a mixed bag for me. The overarching concept is definitely interesting. Daxter is funnier than the last game, and I love watching him in cutscenes. He really has grown to be one of my favorite video game sidekicks. Jak now has a speaking role, which is a major improvement considering the story revolves around him heavily. I liked that Jak had an edgier tone as the straight man, which contrasts well with Daxter. The great thing is that Naughty Dog included plenty of scenes of them being friends, where they play off each other, which kept me invested. Whilst I had frustrations with the gameplay, the journey of the duo kept me interested to see it to the end. Jak's darker side was a cool concept, but I wish they did more with it. It's displayed in the beginning, and it's not really involved beyond that. I just wish we could have seen more cutscenes of Dark Jak. I'd argue that Jak being edgy was due to the events that led to the start of the game, and not the fact that he was infused with Dark Eco. The returning characters are all great, and they provide a good support. The new characters, however, I didn't like them. Torn is frankly just an ungrateful guy. Whilst I'm aware he's portrayed as jaded, he's frankly disrespectful to Jak and Daxter's efforts, and they call him out on it. The events with Torn didn't make me like him at all, and I couldn't agree with his decisions, making him more unlikable. The antagonist, Baron Praxis, is definitely convincing. He's evil, and I felt he did a great job at motivating me to progress and finally defeat him. He's not simply a tyrant, he's a tyrant with goals and methods. This in turn compelled me to help the people of Haven City because I saw what evil acts he was complicit in. The plot itself is a bit of a mixed bag for me. The character moments are highlights, and so are the lore elements introduced. I really enjoyed discovering the secrets of the city and seeing how Jak was affected. My issue, however, is not just exclusively to this game. If you've played Grand Theft Auto or other open world games with multiple stories, I think you'll understand. In Jak 2, there's the main quest and side quests which are related yet separate. The early missions with Torn and crew just feel like dilly-dallying, not necessarily time wasters, but missions to get to more juicy missions. Rockstar did this a lot with missions for a character that didn't progress the narrative forwards, but sideways. Thankfully, Jak 2 wasn't as egregious with this. Crew is fully involved in the plot, and we did get gameplay rewards for doing his missions such as weapon upgrades. There's a side plot with racing, which I really didn't enjoy. I understand why the races were necessary to win within the context of the story, but the deviation in gameplay to progress the main narrative didn't motivate me to complete the story. Jack's overall character arc was quite good and compelling. It was a key force that encouraged me to see the game to its end. The ending was a good payoff, and I felt satisfied at the end. Visually, Jack 2 looks a lot more desaturated than the original. That's not a criticism, however. Every sector of Haven City contrasts nicely, making the city feel varied and lively. This made the continuous traversal throughout the city feel not stale, which I appreciated. The environments feel detailed, especially in the dedicated areas. The temple was especially my favorite section, but a notable example is also the sewer. For example, dropping the water levels in the sewer and then discovering what was under the water was very enjoyable. The dig site had these vibrant colors, and then there was the interaction to destroy the object in the dig site. Then we re-enter the dig site and explore a new section of it. This I really enjoyed. Visually, seeing what these places showed us upon our return was very engaging for me. The models in this game are very appealing. I think Jack's appearance in this game is my favorite of the trilogy. Daxter looks better, and he's way more lively in his animations. Every character looks great, and it's very appealing to see these designs. They feel believable despite them having a cartoonish appearance. I can't really criticize anything visually other than the UI. It does look a little low res, but it's better than the original game. The soundtrack for this game is superb. Even if the more intense sections frustrated me, the soundtrack was such a great motivator. The intensity of the gameplay has a great synergy with the soundtrack, which elevated the intensity and my engagement. Weapons-wise, the guns are satisfying to listen to, especially the automatic rifle. The voice acting is great, especially from Daxter. Max Casella brings so much life to his role, and I believe he's the highlight of this game. Jack was also very compelling. It's a big risk introducing a voice to a silent protagonist, but I believe Mike Irwin did a great job making him sound like an edgy 17-year-old. Quality-wise, this game sounded noticeably better than the first game. The samples don't have that bit crush sound, which is very appreciated. About every aspect of the sound design is satisfying to listen to. It's nice ear candy for someone like me. The directional audio was also a nice touch. The achievements for this game are pretty straightforward. They're mostly awarded for story completion. This means there's not really much to say. They're a great reward for players after each mission, which is very appreciated. The important achievements are for collecting the metal eggs and precursor eggs. Throughout the game, you'll have plenty of opportunities, and definitely by the end of the game, you'll get all of the metal eggs. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for precursor eggs. There are a total of 8 missable precursor eggs. 7 at the final stage of the game, which you cannot return back to, and 1 egg which is glitched, located in the sewers. If you are a completionist like myself, I recommend getting the one in the sewers as soon as possible. Regarding the other 7, just use a guide so you don't screw yourself out of completion. Jack 2 was very divisive for me. I had more highs than lows for sure. If you're looking to buy this, it is important to know that you will likely get frustrated at times, but the story, music, and gameplay does reward you for your efforts. I can definitely recommend this game. If you've played these games, let me know your favorite in the trilogy or your thoughts on Jack 2. Thank you for watching.